Good evening and happy Monday to all of you. We're back from our little 2 week break. I remembered to mention that I was going to be taking Easter Monday off, but it passed my mind that I would also be at our clergy spring education days. Always Google Chrome decided to crash, so that's very special. Um, Where was I? Yes, clergy spring ed days. That was not the only interruption in our service, I suppose. So it's been an exciting week for news. If you're in the mood for that, specifically if you were looking forward to the Pope and the President having things to say to each other. This was kind of the most predictable clash. At some point, I think we all knew it was going to happen. That Trump was just going to be himself, and with Pope Leo's persistent objections to the current conflict in Iran, this was bound to happen eventually. That the president would tweet something and we would all have to hear about it. The local media was very persistent on asking for my local bishop to have a statement on this. And so he put out a very brief statement, something to the effect of, "I'm very disappointed in the bishop or the Pope's the president's rhetoric, and I want to continue joining with Pope Leo in prayers for peace." It wasn't anything longer than that. And talking to the diocesan director of communications, he was spending plenty of time moderating the comment section in the diocese's social media there. So that's pretty special to have that moment as Catholics here. I don't actually think that's the most interesting story, though. At least not for Father Eric, the priest here. I think some of the engagement from Vice President Vance was the more interesting thing. And poor Vice President Vance, he's got to represent the president in a lot of times, and he's got to represent a rather erratic and free speaking president, and try and do that while also being a public Catholic. And he's not somebody who downplays his Catholic faith. He's got a biography in coming out here soon, which is going to be um talking about all of these things. And yeah, so what do we have going on here with Vice President Vance? And I'm going to say that I didn't think that he handled himself particularly well. This is the second time when he has, Vice President Vance has used the wrong tools. I don't think that he's actually, by and large, adopting entirely indefensible positions all by himself. But he just needs somebody to help him use the correct tools here. There was that dust up in January or February of 2025 when all of a sudden everybody was talking about the Ordo Amoris. And I don't think that was the right tool for the occasion. He could have simply referred to the paragraph of the Catechism of the Catholic Church that talks about the right of the nations to regulate their own borders, and how public officials are responsible for that, and saying, and this is a moment where me as a elected public official just has to make a judgment call here. And so, what I think would have been more helpful for Vice President Vance to have done would have been to actually give an account of a defense of the current conflict from the perspective of Catholic just war theory. Catholic just war theory goes all the way back to Saint Augustine, and it has certain ways that certain, let's say, moral categories for those in leadership positions to discern whether or not the situation may need to lead to war. I don't have it all, exactly at the top of my head, but one of them is that you're not supposed to simply go to war in order to, grab land or resources. That's just that sort of aggression is never tolerable. All right, so that's what a lot of wars have been fought over, and that's unfortunate. The damage caused by the aggressor party needs to be lasting, grave, and certain. All of the other ways of resolving the conflict need to have been exhausted or shown to be impractical before you can go straight into the war. And the use of force has to be proportionate with the damage done. Now, if he had made an argument, let's say in the public sphere, using these sorts of categories and the other categories of Catholic just war theory as articulated in the Catechism, I'm not sure he would have moved the needle all that much. He probably isn't going to be changing the Pope's mind. It's probably not going to be changing a whole lot of Catholic minds. I think a great many people on the Catholic side who are looking at this and calling it an unjust war are saying that this is preemptive war. That doesn't really There's really no room for a preemptive strike outside of the boundaries of your own country. That there's not really any place for that in Catholic just war theory. But he could have used these Catholic tools here. And instead, the sorts of things that Vice President Vance were saying just really weren't all that useful, weren't all that helpful in that. So I guess I'll just offer my services to offer Catholic commentary on JD Vance's social media profiles anytime Catholic theology comes up, because much of what he's doing is at least defensible from a Catholic point of view, and yeah, uh, I think we're using the right tools from our tradition would have made that entire interaction a little less hair-pullingly frustrating to behold. And I don't exactly have a lot of hair left to pull on. So, what can we say? We can say that everything is just continuing to be rather unpleasant, and hopefully, uh, hopefully, God will begin to act in a marvelous way soon. That's all I have. So we've got our StreamYard link posted and ready to go. And, this has been a hot topic for discussion recently. So hopefully some of you will come in and we can begin to discuss this together. Oh, yeah. Catholic just war theory, the Pope, the Vice President, the President, all of these things.
That's a mess. That's a mess. I only have one problem, Father. I hear a lot of people talking about spiritual warfare, and they're simultaneously talking about earthly peace, and I'm like, I don't think that sounds like you're completely bonkers at that point. No.
I mean, like, what do we mean by peace, right? Do we just mean like stasis and people not moving, or do we mean like an actual just order that keeps things balanced? But spiritual warfare and earthly peace are both things that you'll strive after for forever and never fully accomplish. So
maybe I just think you can't, like, it's a very, for lack of a better term that people understand, it's a very modern way of conceiving of the world as though you can separate those two things. And for
sure,
me, like, you can't separate those two things. Like, if there's spiritual war, and I'm like big spiritual war guy, like, yes, that's clearly
there's going to
a
be
correct
turmoil on
frame.
Earth that
Yeah,
that accompanies it.
expecting earthly peace, because, like it or not, for whatever reason, war and peace are exclusive in our language. Post whatever day, although I think it was always that way. And so you really, like, you couldn't have both conditions at once, and you shouldn't expect it. And if we can't identify an enemy, uh that needs to be engaged with, then that's fine. But why are you talking about spiritual war? Like, the same would be true in that case, and you can't have it both ways. If you agree with spiritual war, the idea that we shouldn't also be at war in the earthly realm is ridiculous to me. Like, if you've got one, you've got to have the other. And that just is the way it is. Like, you're not going to peace one and war the other. That's not going to happen. I mean, my argument would be the spiritual drives the material, or the earthly, or whatever, and therefore, so, saying spiritual warfare and then calling for earthly peace is just dumb. It's all that, if my formulation is correct, which it may not be, although I think it's sort of unavoidable.
Unless, I mean,
Animation.
unless you consider the call for peace to be a tool
Well,
in the spiritual warfare.
yeah, but you'd have to brand those people, as a people, not like, oh, there's some good people there. That whatever, there's good people everywhere. It's an unconvincing argument. As a non-enemy, which would be fine if you could make that case first and then call for peace. I might be up for it. But actually, Islam. So, like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
really got to struggle mentally to get them as the not enemy in any frame, as a group, right? Sure, plenty of individual Muslims were perfectly fine.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
also, as a group and as a country, you've got to bring the goods, because, like, if they're not
It's
the
that
enemy,
frame switching that, like, oh, but there's good people there. Like, well,
right?
that's really
That's
how
the
many
confusion.
divisions are there of the good people, and
Well,
who's their
and that's
leader?
the
Yeah,
confusion of the specific for the general, which is
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so common a crime, and it is a crime. It's a crime against reality and common sense and logic, reason, and rationality. It's so common a crime we don't even see it anymore. People do it constantly, and no one even notices. Just like, oh yeah, you've got a good point. No, you don't. You're a retard. You don't confuse the specific for the general, or vice
Mhm.
versa. This isn't that hard, right? But like, we did the Crusades. Like, I don't what, like, this seems unambiguous to me. Like, we should be at war with Islam. I don't get it. Like, why is this hard? I don't understand. I also, like, I don't support troops on the ground in Iran for tactical reasons more than anything else. Like, I don't think we need to do anything other than bombing. And at this
Mhm.
point, it's sort of mission accomplished. And, oh, by the way, what was really going on was we were destroying the last vestiges of the English Empire, taking control of the global financial situation, cutting China off, and securing all the waterways. Because while everyone's attention was on a Strait of Hormuz, we were also maneuvering, and have been, to get other waterways, and now we have them all under our control. So, massive victory. Like, I don't know what else to say there. But nobody
Well,
noticed, because everybody was too worried about Trump, and does he have a plan, and all this other stupid stuff that they weren't qualified to evaluate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I haven't been following this story. You could see the angle that I was taking on the story, and I don't have all of that all that informed a posture on it. I'm going to continue to pray for a swift and just resolution no matter what that looks like. Yeah,
it's mostly over,
yeah.
and they stopped the bombing of Lebanon, which I was very much like.
Hezbollah, right? That was what that was targeted at.
Allegedly, I don't
Allegedly.
care. Like I don't. You can't. Oh, is Israel just going to say, well, everybody we're not happy with, like, because that seems to be what they're doing, and it's like, no, we don't need more wars in the Middle East, guys. Like that, the Iranian conflict was not carte blanche for you to go and finally do your fatwa, because that's what it would have been, on all your neighbors who hate you. That's it. Like, no, you can't mix these two things up. And
Mhm.
to be fair, Trump put a swift end to that, thankfully. So I'm like, in my mind, in a larger frame, this is a total victory of unprecedented standing
From
historically.
your lips to God's ears, Mark. Let it be so.
Yeah.
We'll just see what sort of fruit is coming out of this. Well,
I don't
that's
know what
just
Samson option would be. What would that be, Father? You have to translate this crazy Christianese language into something I can
Mark's
understand.
thoughts on the Samson option. I don't even. I mean, I know who Samson is. He was the judge
That's
of
the guy
Israel
with the
who was.
hair and the strength and the collards.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
kind of dumb, but
he is,
really strong.
right,
So
and prone to the wiles of women.
Philistine women.
Ew,
Philistine,
even
like
worse.
literally the enemies of Israel, right? Like, come on, guys, this isn't that
Well, see,
complicated. So
that's how I'm viewing the Pope's statements, actually. So, like, why are you nice to these people? These aren't our friends. We did the Crusades. Like, we need more of them, not less. That's right.
yeah, well, it's so there was an interesting. I'm not sure what I think about it, but somebody analyzing the way that the word war has been used by the popes since like the 1970s, and like it was kind of interesting, like they're just drawing a really hard distinction between um, war and just defense of the common good. And I don't, but it's like this is another one of those things where like the Pope doesn't actually control anything regarding this,
Right.
and
Yeah, yeah.
so his rhetoric is just a lot cheaper, right?
Mhm.
Because he doesn't have any divisions, right? And
He can't
there's
back it up, right?
yeah,
Which is
and
fine. Yeah.
right,
Or
right.
maybe
It's
maybe
just
not so fine, but
yeah.
it is what it is. Like, it's what we're living with.
Whereas, if he started making noises on the traditional Latin mass, I'd be like super dialed into it, because well, that is, he is the chief legislator of the Catholic Church there. So it's a useful thing, a useful thing to consider when we're talking about these things. He's got a lot of freedom to speak
Mhm.
because he doesn't have to back anything up when it
Right.
comes to those sorts of public policy
Right.
decisions. And so he could go really hard on the anti-war position, and like what if we just imagined that he felt like he needed to play that part,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
if it didn't do anything.
I'm all for the exemplification of him saying no war, and I'm not super familiar with the exactly what he said and when and all that
Hmm.
nonsense, because I just
Hmm.
don't actually care.
Hmm.
I am fine with a gesturing towards peace by the Pope. Like, that's kind of his job. Like,
It's
so
like it's kind of what you want to hear. If the Pope says,
yeah,
"Go in
like
and get them, boys," we're in
like if he's
serious
not
trouble.
if he's not doing that, I'd pay way more attention, and be far more interested, by the way, because I'm a
Hmm.
more rules guy, so
Hmm.
I'm okay. Like, we have too few of the right wars. That's my whole attitude. Hopefully, much smaller wars like Iran, but still, way too few of them. We need like 10 more just to start to get momentum. Um, but realistically, that's not my complaint at all. My complaint is the people maybe they're getting the right signal from the Pope, and that's all well and good. And like, again, I don't really care. It's not a signal I care to pay attention to. But the people who are okay with spiritual warfare and simultaneously want like an earthly peace, I think that's like really bad, actually.
That would be a sign that you had won some decisive victory in the spiritual warfare.
No, they don't seem to believe that the spiritual war is over. But you certainly haven't. So yeah, I mean, either way, you're kind of screwed. Like I just don't think you should be talking like that anyway. It's different if a pope wants to call for something to happen. That would be wonderful. I would say his call is backwards. What you call for is to win the spiritual war and manifest earthly peace, because I think that's how it works. But I'm an emanation first guy, and I don't know what the Pope is, but I don't know. Like, maybe not. I got questions, that's for sure. But I understand, as a quote propaganda piece or something, that he should do that. That's totally, and like I said, like I don't have any beef with the Pope. Can say whatever the hell he wants. It doesn't affect anything. But it's bad when people, right, that aren't the Pope, maybe like everybody but the Pope can do what he wants. He's at the top. I don't care. It's fine. No say, no criticism, no nothing. But when people in general start talking about spiritual warfare and the importance of spiritual warfare, and also calling for earthly peace, that's when it all breaks down for me. And I'm like, nah, something's wrong here. You can't have it both ways. You're gonna have to make some hard decisions about not only your theology, but the way in which the cosmos or creation or something is actually constructed and operates. And I'm just, as I said, I'm an emanation first guy. And so the only way to get earthly peace is to win the spiritual war. Like, it's not that hard. I'm also a simpleton, so I can't do hard math anyway. So that's as far as I'm willing to go, on that front.
Yeah. Well, hey, again, with doesn't really matter what people are saying. We're not going to move that needle all that much with just 10 people tuning in here. So,
well, maybe we will. You don't know. It depends which 10 people.
Yeah,
and you don't know who's going to see it in the future either.
The future.
Done.
I always forget about the future. That's how I get into trouble most of the time.
We were talking about the arrow of time earlier on the Discord server. It was quite a good conversation. Actually, Manuel came back, which is just absolutely delightful. And now I can do a video that I've been trying to do for like a year and a half, because Manuel's a magical creature and he's really good at poking the ideas until I get them formed correctly. So I'm like absolutely thrilled. I might record this video tomorrow. I'm all excited now that I can see the path.
Can you give us a little teaser for what's coming on the Mark of Wisdom Navigating's Pattern channel?
Oh, well, first of all, Father, it's coming tomorrow, right?
The Feast of St. Anselm.
No, on my channel.
Oh, okay.
What's coming on my channel? So we were in the context of my channel. Why do you switch contexts on me, crazy person?
But I thought it'd be funny.
It was funny. That's true. Adam is back.
Oh.
And that conversation is coming tomorrow.
And it's going to be 72 degrees and low wind tomorrow. So maybe I'll just sit on the back porch, smoke my pipe,
back porch,
have a glass of whiskey, and listen to Lore Master Adam regale us with Otto von Bismarck, right?
Take notes, Otto von Bismarck. Yep. And then I've got another video on personal private perspective. And the video I want to record now is something about maps and the video game reality. So my big insight was the problem of maps and where we'll say the God of the gaps and stuff, ridiculous arguments like that come from, which is if you take a map, which is a flattened representation of something, even if it's a 3D map, it's still a flattened representation because it doesn't move through time, for example, among other things. And you add characters and rules, you have a video game in all cases. Like you don't, and so that
you could just say like just a game, right? Or a tabletop game or a role-playing game or something like that.
Oh yeah, but I need to be A, more controversial, and B, more to the recent point. Like
Okay. Yeah.
the problem is not board games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because board games you're going to play with other people in person, and
Mm-hmm.
that actually is a huge
And
upgrade
you
from
can get
video.
into like a really good argument about the rules, you know. It's like, no, it's
Yeah, but
perfectly legitimate to have Monopoly house rules, you know.
you're physically in the room with other people with a board game, and that
So
makes a
so there's a
huge difference.
potential. There's a potential for somebody to flip the board.
Well, but just being in the room, you have access to a ton more information.
Yeah.
And this is an upgrade, video instead of just audio, for example. Like this is an upgrade to something like Clubhouse, as much as I actually enjoyed Clubhouse quite a bit. This is a huge upgrade because again, you have more information. Like that like from a computer perspective, because there's just more bandwidth involved. Like it's not a magic trick. You don't need to do any math or calculations. You can just look at numbers. Ooh, bigger number, right? Oh, okay, much bigger number. Gotcha. Right. And so there's just more information. And that makes a big difference. So if you play Monopoly with your friends, as a video game without the video on, that's not as good as the board game. And if you
Mm-hmm.
play it with your friends over a computer with video on, that's still not as good as the board game, right? Because it's still
Mm-hmm.
much less
Mm-hmm.
information, and it's orders of magnitude less information at each level, which segues into the hierarchy live stream that I did. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm going to exemplify all of that because it matters. Like the video gameness actually matters in terms of exemplification and how we do our building of our models in our head.
Right. And this is, and I don't know if you need this particular insight, but like a good video game, like if it's we'll say accomplishing the purpose for which it was designed for, let's say we'll use that as our metric for good, it does all of the relevance realization for you, right? Like you don't have to practice your relevance realization with that. You don't have to go through that. Like the people who have sculpted the video game have already like highlighted the things that you can interact with and like programmed the ways that you can interact with them. So and that even goes, that goes for really linear scripted games just as much as it does for something that's famous for having a lot of different choices, something like Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
I haven't played it myself, but I've heard that the devs were very intentional about making it as open you can just try lots of different things.
Open world, it's called. Yeah.
It's not quite, it's like you've just got a staggering number of options. A lot of them really bad, but like you could do them. And it'll change around that, but it's still restricted to what the devs were able to come up with. Right? It doesn't have the full plethora of reality. So I think, I mean, engaging with these things for too long and having it be a substitute for engagement with other people, nature, these sorts of things. Your capacity for relevance realization, poetically navigating the world, or if we to put it in Catholic terms, developing the virtues, fortitude, temperance, justice, prudence, like all of those will atrophy if you over rely on video games. And if you use it as a little bit of entertainment, it might not be so bad. So,
well, and that's why we're trying to sort of help people to figure out how to inform the world poetically, because that's the key to getting to the symbolic representations and all that, or we'll say the proper symbolic representations and not totally random ones. But yeah, I added in relevance realization in my notes. Thanks. I hadn't thought about it because I just wrote it down while I was talking to Manuel earlier, which I had to abandon him and his blathering on to come here. So yeah.
Well, he's up late then.
He's up really late, but it's so good to see him, and I'm glad he's been on the Discord for such a long period of time and had such a spirited, awesome discussion that has now led to my next video for sure. The next one I'm going to record anyway. I really like this. I think I'm gonna grab the Myth of World War II and the Battle of Two Books too, and throw it right in there, and just show how all that is actually tied together. And maybe I'll do like the because I did a progression earlier today with the the philosopher used the nominalist frame, and I use the materialist frame because they're actually the same thing at some layer.
I'm glad I'm not the only one to have noticed that. Like nominalism leading right into materialism.
Exactly. Well, understand why you also not the thing, right? I don't like materialism is just too easy for me, and nominalism is too hard for everybody. So I don't buy into the nominal. So yeah, I was making an advanced case actually for no, it's not nominalism, it's just materialism. And then we got into vertical sequence and the loss of sequence, which I said is materialism because materialism flattens the world, and I made that case. And then I had to make the case about if you don't even have sequence, you can't do vertical sequence, which is something like inheritance, and that caused a big dust up. We had a big fight about what inheritance is, whether or not it's vertical. And I was like, I don't really, you can't see that. Okay, well, that's a problem. And then yeah, that whole, and then of course I looped it back to the Protestant catastrophe because I'm blaming that for everything still, and it's still holding true. It's great. It's fantastic. It works fantastically well.
Yeah, related to that, if you're playing a game, the more like flat and unparticipatory it is, the more you can put all that stuff into your imagination where everything works perfectly.
Yes. So. Yep. And then you lose the poetic. Yeah, that's right. A good point.
The poetic friction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, really important.
I'm going to steal that. Poetic
it's all
friction.
yours.
Don't totally stealing that, Father. Totally. That's completely mine now. I like that. Poetic friction. Yeah.
Because when you dig into a video game, it's like all of the characters are actually cylinders, for the hitboxes and their physics interactions, or cubes. They don't do cubes all that much, or and then they put like a fancy animation over them, and it works computationally probably a lot better to do your physics and collision simulations with simple shapes, and then put fancy animations over them so it looks like a human being instead of just a cylinder moving around. So anyway, that seemed important to me for some reason.
No, that's right. That's when it's this odd meshing, right? So you're replacing a poetic interaction in reality with a physics engine interaction, which is more precise and exact and all that. So it's kind of more materialistic, but at the same time, it's removing you entirely from reality and somehow putting you in your head, which is even stranger, right? Because you're getting a tighter, more actual material system. But I think because those don't actually work for us, like we can't actually relate to things like physics. That's why physics is hard. We retreat into our imagination. So. Now I don't want to record that video right now, but I'm here instead. So,
well, we'll just we'll give people the sneak preview of it, and they can hop in. And
all 5 of your viewers, fantastic.
All 5 of my viewers, yeah. Well, I always get a lot of people watching this on Tuesday. I don't know about a lot of people, but I get people who reliably watch this on Tuesday, and I'm just sometimes surprised that anybody watches it all. So thank you. Thank you for riding along.
Maybe we should move it to Tuesdays, Father. Although you can't, right? You're always busy.
I'm much more likely to be busy on a Tuesday. First Tuesday of every month already locked in. So really a non-starter. And
well, some people are watching on Tuesday anyway. So there you go.
I think they just have a commute or something, and they know we're always keeping the lights on.
They never give us the lottery numbers ahead of time, so I don't like these people. They were true friends of the channel.
Man, you know what I'd do? I'd build so many beautiful churches if I had, $500 million.
I would, yeah. I was thinking today because someone was talking about going. Oh, I think it was Manuel went to a Ren fair at a monastery, and I was like, I just want to build like rock walls and stone structures. That's all I want to do. I don't want to do anything else. I'm okay with cranes and stuff, but like actually, let's just fit blocks together, see what happens. Like let's go ahead and build a medieval style village out of actual rocks.
Oh, Mark, we could do that in Minecraft.
ooh, and we can do it together in Minecraft, actually. So I've heard. Yeah, I've played Minecraft like 4 times ever, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what this is. I'm staying away from this.
It's a giant box of Legos that you're on the inside of.
Yeah. Well, it's so in the early days of the internet, we had games like that. They just weren't 3D, and so like Mushes and Muds, for example, you can look up Mud multi-user dungeon and Mush multi-user shared hallucination. It's actually simple code to write too, which is hysterical to me. Very easy code to write. It's just a database. It's a basic database access code with a couple of rules on it, and usually a chat system. So early chat was actually Mushes and Muds. I still know people from the Muds and Mushes online. So I knew already, oh, no, this is just 3-dimensional crack cocaine instead of the old 2-dimensional crack cocaine that I already have tasted and know is bad. So I was like, I ain't going near this. I know exactly what this is. No. I've seen this. I know what this does to people.
And back in the 80s, they called it a hallucination already.
Oh, yeah. Multi-user shared hallucination, a mush. Yeah. There's a famous one. I can't remember the name of it. I would remember the name of it if I heard it. And they started in the 80s. Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about how it like disconnects you from reality and traps you in your imagination. It's like whoever named that was already kind of like.
No, they all knew. No, you gotta understand, Father. The early internet is full of brilliant people. The only brilliant people. Like actually, it was a filter. It was very hard to get on the early internet. Like not only did you have to have a modem, but like you had to know some amount of Unix. Like Unix is not a very intuitive operating system. Like I love Unix, a big Unix guy, always was. Learned by back in the old days. Like I had books. I had, my father worked for Computer Vision, so I had access to $35,000 workstations and stuff. And then I went, on the, I guess it's officially the MIT campus or unofficially the MIT campus, and hung out at the Free Software Foundation and had my own account and all that nonsense on these very expensive machines for free. And so like I'm all in. I'm an old time command line guy from back in the day. But like you had to actually be like way above average smart to get on the internet. There was no other way, or to get into things like Mushes in particular. There we go. No, I'm gonna do that. I was in the garage today. It's not a really garage, my shed. Lamenting about all the equipment I don't have up and running. But like we had a filter, and also the only people interested were smart. Like, and there were other things like IRC, which was just a chat system. It's still IRC still run a good bunch of the internet that nobody understands in terms of like what gets out into the social area, right? And then it's the same thing for news groups and stuff and email. Those are very easy, but when you try to go to a mud or a mush, it gets very hard. And so there's a natural filter there, and that natural filter is important.
Yes.
So they knew it was a hallucination. Of course they did. They knew exactly what was going on.
Ron's got a question about Marian healing. So I eagerly, not that it's great to leave Uncle Mark's Tech Garage, but
Fine by me. I could go on for days and days about the old days for sure.
I believe you. You've done it on this very channel, and
you kids get off my lawn.
Usually very interesting. Yeah, it's usually very interesting. It's like all these things that I don't know.
Well, Ron's gonna jump on. See, he prematurely cut me off, and then now he's doing this nonsense to us. Like, what the heck, Ron? We
Yeah.
thought you were a friend and you betrayed us.
I
I thought he
don't
was
think
going
he
to
meant-
ask the question and then I was going to stop. So it's like, okay, we'll wait for his question. But if he's going to jump on, that's fine too. But yeah,
here's your confess and repent, Mark.
there we go. That's fine. He doesn't need to do that for such a minor and yet amusing interlude. It's really your fault, Mr. Channel Manager. I blame you. You're in charge
Yeah.
anyway, so
You're right.
it's all your fault.
You're right.
There's
I'm a
nothing to do
cotton-headed
with
nitty
Ron.
muggins.
Ron
Yeah.
did nothing wrong whatsoever.
Not tonight, anyway.
Not tonight.
Now he's
There
making
he
up for
is.
things.
All right. There's Ron. Hey, Ron.
There
I'm
he
so
is.
sorry, Mark. I am so.
It's
I'm
Father Eric's
sorry.
fault. It's not your
I'm
fault.
so sorry.
He's the one that cut me off for
I-
no reason.
It's vengeance. It's just a spiteful nature I have. I'm so sorry. I
Good to see you, Ron.
You too. So, by the way, I have to say, when I went to Ohio State a million years ago, I studied Fortran just a little bit. I really liked it. That was fun. I could have been a bazillionaire by now, but oh well. You know, I went into TV production. Now you can do it all on your phone. But
I could have started mining Bitcoin, you know.
Me too.
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So now that we all could have been millionaires, the question I have, it's about Mary. Is I know that in exorcism, when she shows up, demonic stuff goes, and I understand that. Are there how does she play into any other, I don't know, if miracles? You have miracles like inner healing. Is there, if you have like a Reader's Digest condensed version of what she can do and what is kosher to ask in and through her name, because
Mhm.
being a Pentecostal Protestant dude, it's always Jesus only, and
Yeah.
I know. So what?
So I mean,
find-
let's go back to the very beginning, right? There was a wedding feast at Cana, and
Okay.
the wine ran short,
Yeah.
and Mary goes to her son Jesus and says, "They have no wine," and Jesus is like, "What is this between you and me? My hour has not yet come."
Yeah.
And then Mary's just like, "Okay, Jesus, hey servants, go do whatever he tells you." And Jesus is like, "I guess my hour's come now." And you know, they get, what is it, like 100 gallons of water, and
120.
Jesus 120 gallons of water turns it into wine, and they just have the best daggone wedding party in all of Galilee right there, right? So I don't think it's, you know, like with a mediator, right? With a mediator, what sort of, you know, like, are they doing something or are they doing something? Well, like, yes and no.
Mhm.
If Mary is, you know, been tasked with dispersing the graces won by our Lord's incarnation and crucifixion and resurrection, then, you know, she's going to do that however it needs to happen. So we can remember the story of Saint Juan Diego and Our Lady of Guadalupe. You know, she starts appearing to him on the top of the hill, says, "Go tell the bishop to build a church here." The bishop's like, "I'm going to need a sign," which is, frankly, out of all the bishops and saint stories, that's one of the more reasonable ones, right? It's like, "I'm going to need a sign from you," you know. And then Juan Diego's uncle's sick, and he's like, "I got to go find a priest. I got to make sure not to meet the lady on the top of the hill." And then she meets him anyway, and is like, "Okay, Juan Diego, am I not your mother? Your uncle's already recovered. He doesn't need the priest anymore. Go up to the top of the hill, and you're going to find roses blooming in the middle of December. There's the
Mhm.
bishop's," you know. And it's like, okay, she's clearly there. She's clearly arranging things, but she's not like operating on her own power.
Right.
Like, her whole identity is being full of grace and being, you know, kind of the mediator of that. So I'm just having a hard time grasping what the question is. It's like
Well, actually,
it's
you
all
just
intercession and it's all mediation
okay.
right there.
See, and because I didn't really give you a question, I kind of it didn't. I am now becoming comfortable, especially off grid. Like, okay, something happened between me and the Protestant Voldemort, you know. So, but I'm cool with it. I realize it's. Did you like that? All right. And I think what the question that came into my head is not so much why, like, who is she, but what did I need?
Mm-hmm.
And dude, right when I thought that question, it was, and I'm asking you as a priest, I feel like I received a grace and that allowed the stuff to go. And it's simply always his love, his presence.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something it's taken me about 5 years to become very comfortable with saying behind closed doors. But I'm okay with it because for a long time, I just didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made it confusing because I didn't want to blaspheme God. But I'm realizing I'm not. And instead of asking, what do I do next? It's more so, why did I need her? And it was for grace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm at. I feel like I've taken one step. So now, and I have a tendency like, dude, I hope I heal. Like if I see someone sick, or at least I'm going to try to, in the name of Jesus, be healed. And now with her in my life, something's going to happen. But I want to know how to steward it properly
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
to define it as well. And I could see emotional healing coming because if I got it, it's like being a carrier. So I will never say, and in the name of Mary be healed, but I will say in Jesus' name be healed. But I know what God has done for me is that he sent her to me. He may do that for others.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm running this by you just because I feel like if I can say it here now and I'm not getting kind of pushback, then I'm on the right track.
You're just learning how to speak the language here, huh?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a helpful talk I heard once, and maybe you'll find this helpful too. Is we could think of 4 Marian dogmas, right? There's a nice scary word for you, dogmas. The perpetual virginity of Mary, Mary as the mother of God, the Immaculate Conception, and the Assumption into heaven there. And that all of us, like everything about her that's described in those 4 titles are first off proper to a creature, right? So,
Was proper to a creature?
right. So there's nothing about being a perpetual virgin that implies that you're God.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So, and Mary does these things in an exemplary way, and in kind of a singular way, singular and exemplary, and we can all kind of participate in that. So we might not have, the purity for God that she has, but we can purify our hearts, and we can, imitate her perfect receptivity towards divine grace, and keep ourselves like that. We might not bear God in our bodies, or bear grace as gracefully as she did, but we can still, bear the presence of Jesus within us. None of us were, preserved from sin from the first moment of our existence, but we can all continue to repent of our sins and be so washed. And the resurrected body that she enjoys now in heaven, someday we will all enjoy in the resurrection there. So that everything she does in a way that's it's properly creaturely, in even these exalted titles of Theotokos and the Immaculata, glorious Assumption, all of that is still all very proper to a creature, and we can participate in that. So I think that gets us to the next level, is when we start talking about Mary as the image of the church. That if we want to know what the church is supposed to strive for as the bride of Christ, we look to the Queen Mother, who's the exemplar of all of those virtues there. Which is why when you get to Revelation chapter 12, it's like, who's the woman? Is it Mary or the church? And it's like, well, you squint and cross your eyes, and it's actually the same person.
Yeah. Well, I was just curious, Father. Is Mary seen as higher than a saint?
Higher than she's the greatest of all of God's creatures.
Well, she's not greater than Jesus, right?
So okay,
Jesus
we could get real.
Oh, I know this one.
We could get real cute with language, and we could say yes, the created human nature of Jesus is higher than Mary. That's correct, but not according to Jesus's divine nature. So we gotta play with the communication of idioms properly. And I've been playing with the communication of idioms since I was a boy, Kirk. And you're not going to outdo me on the communication of idioms. So just be careful.
Oh, it's getting nasty. I like it.
I wasn't trying to, Father. I was just making sure, because I was taught my dad's Catholic, and I've been to some Catholic services, and as I understand it, Mary is definitely considered more holy than a saint, but not as holy as Jesus.
Yes, so she's more holy than any of the other saints. She has the most exalted place among the choirs of angels and saints. That is correct.
Yeah.
So if I can just almost to land the plane, but this has been helpful, because I think you're right. Like, you're nailing, like, I'm learning the language. It was not a tailspin in a bad way, but confusing for me to walk through this, just because I didn't want to set off a landmine. But now that we're on the other side, the encounter is it's perpetual. Like, it's like when you have water and you pour water into a half glass, and like you have two, like, so there's something going on in me all the time. And I feel like it's gaining traction, and it's just making me happy. It's the best I can describe it. And I have nothing to do with it. When I try to be holy, I got squat. When I start just like hanging out with you guys and just being a Yahoo, it's good. And I'm just trying to work. I guess I'm looking for answers, and I just don't have any. I'm trying to walk this thing. And what I'm trying to do is, okay, what do I do next, and how do I do it right? Because I've already done it wrong.
I think you should just become Catholic, Ron.
I know. I don't mind that answer. Okay, I think you'll understand what I'm going to say. At this point, Catholicism would just be the gift wrapping paper for the gift inside. And I'm not trying to be insulting at all. But I mean,
I think there's maybe a little more to it than you think.
Well, then you could listen to your priest, and he could just tell you the answers to your question, and then you wouldn't have to work it out for yourself, which is the big advantage. You could just go, "What do I do next, priest?" And then you know, like the answers will come
I don't
if
mind
you're
that answer.
doing the thing. right?
I
Like,
don't
that's
mind that
massive.
answer. And all my Catholic friends, like they're FCO leaders, and they're all like the Jesuits. Actually, the Jesuit was the coolest one of all. He was like, "Yeah, it sounds like Mary," and he didn't do a hard sell. But I do understand and respect what you're saying. But for me, like, okay, let me rephrase it. Catholicism would be the landing strip. I'm just trying to land the plane properly and not crash anymore. And
Oh, it's got so many safety features built in, like we've got that extra end at the runway of the end of the runway that crumbles in case you're coming in
oh
too
yeah,
fast.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We got fire trucks all over the place,
And I think what I'm trying to say is I've had incredible charisms and uh, what is it? When you get radically changed, I forget the technical term, but I've had that, and I've stewarded. I've done screwed up enough. It was unforgiveness and pride, and now that I feel like I'm coming back out of something, I'm incredibly cautious, and it's like being paralyzed and not being paralyzed anymore. And
Mhm.
so, and I feel like I'm going to be doing something to help people because that's my nature and I want to do that. And I just want to do it right. And when I asked you about Mary and her interaction with healing, if I never mention her name, when someone gets healed and I know it's her interacting and I never mention her name, I just say, Jesus has healed you or the kingdom of heaven is here. That's
You're
how
looking
she.
at the efficient cause instead of the instrumental cause. That's fine.
Oh, I like that. Okay. Wow. I think this is just Jewish guilt that was getting me. Like if I,
It's nice to hear that Catholics aren't the only one who are dealing with guilt, huh?
oh no, 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 no. We invented it. You inherited it. You
Yeah, that's
perfected
probably
it.
correct.
No, but it's a healthy thing when used properly.
Right.
It's not a weapon of destruction. It makes you cautious. And so, okay, this helps.
Yeah.
And all right, this is
So if I could venture
yeah,
to try and explain, and if you think the explanation doesn't fit, just let me know, right? But part of the impulse of Protestantism was that, by medieval Christianity, by the time you got to medieval Catholicism, you had all of these layers of mediation stacked up, all the way up to God Himself, and people were
mhm,
very comfortable and consistent, right? So it's right there at the beginning of the Inferno, right? Um, Dante's in trouble, and then Beatrice goes to St. Lucy. St. Lucy goes to Mary, and Mary goes to Jesus, and then
mhm,
they figure out how they're going to do things, and it all comes back down. And Beatrice goes and gets Virgil to go help. So you got this whole chain of mediation going up there, right? And
right,
the Protestantism is basically saying all of that mediation is bad.
right.
We can just go
To
straight to God
Jesus.
ourselves,
Sure.
right? So, and like that's the whole question of the Protestant revolt right there. Are these layers of mediation in heaven, in the church, via the sacraments, is that a good thing or not? And so if you're coming from like a really Protestant framework, and it sounds like your the place where you've been has been in that really Protestant framework right there. um,
Right.
you don't have like the language and the tools for instrumental causality,
Right.
right?
That's
Where you've
correct.
got an efficient cause that's operating through an instrument. uh,
Mhm,
and instrumental causes are real causes, right? It's not just fake or illusory,
mhm.
but one of them is greater than the other, and you just like you just get used to it when you're raised Catholic, right? It's like, yeah, of course, you know, you ask Mary and she helps you out because it's just kind of like your mom, but in heaven, you know.
Well, and if I
Yeah,
may,
well,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, it depends on the theologian. So in the Protestant theology, as outlined by Karl Jaspers, the purpose of ritual is to disclose transcendence to Dasein through, to disclose fundamental truths of being to Dasein through transcendence or the sublime. So there are certain neo-Kantian and existentialist theologians who value the sacraments because of the value it has in disclosing fundamental truths about being, even if they don't have a literal view of
So
revelation.
who's the efficient cause in all of that?
Uh,
That doesn't change what
Yeah.
Father Eric said at all, by the
Yeah.
way. But I want to add one thing for Ron, just so that he can maybe relate this back to the excellent airport analogy. By the way, Father Dirk, I was like, oh, that's good. That's really good. The implication of removing the mediation, Ron, is that all those layers of mediation that are going on now fall on the shoulders of you as a single person. And the reason the
Yes.
mediation is there is because in order to solve a problem, even for a single person like Dante, you have to have a distributed cognition that is hierarchical, and it has to go up the hierarchy and then back down the hierarchy to come to you. And if you're not used to that, because you know the flat world of the Protestants, then you will feel a lot of guilt because you can't do the world by yourself. But Protestantism secretly, because people don't notice this, requires that. It requires you to do it
Can I
almost
answer
all on your own.
I'm not pushing back at all. I understand what you're saying, and
You can push back.
I'm not. No. This
But you
is
can. Don't worry about it. I'm just saying,
okay.
don't pre-apologize. Everything's fine.
For me, what it was 26 years ago, I do the whole Jesus prayer and have a Saul to Paul moment, and pretty much met God face to face, and then got unforgiveness and all the other sins, and got not demonically possessed but oppressed, learned about repentance, and got a profound healing, but not all the way is the best I can describe it. And that's what I've been working on for years. And it's kind of keeping it, it's like a weak spot in the armor. Forgive, repent, walk in love, removing this junk from her. Have dream with her. She never says her name. On. Love God is established. 5 years to figure out, okay, it probably is Mary. I'm cool with it. And what the interaction is very similar to God. It's a constant long connection. And then the more I think about her, the more he shows up. The thing that gets me a little bit is it's not motherly, it's spousal. It's very clean. It's like if I could meet this girl that I met in the dream, I would marry her immediately and be the happiest guy for the rest of my life. And if I never meet her, a lot of the things that my heart craved are satisfied. And now I'm just, it's not so much a hierarchy that, I understand what you're saying, and the mediation, I'm starting to understand. Well, maybe I don't understand. I'm telling you.
Ron, let me just round out what I was trying to say, right? So you talked about landing the plane, right?
Yes.
And I'm telling you that basically the reason why you think you have to land the plane is because you think you're a pilot on a plane by himself. And the reason why Father Eric said, just land the plane, the airport and the facilities around the airport will take care of it, right? And the bottom line is, let's just assume somehow that you're even the co-pilot on the plane, which I highly doubt, by the way, but you might be, right? Or you're one of the pilots on the plane or something, right? just land the damn plane, because there's so many safety things in place for you that you don't know about, that maybe even Father Eric couldn't really easily explain to you, because the hierarchy is big and you're coming at it with almost no language, like many people do, right? And that's why he said, like, just land the plane, the airport will handle it. Like, we've got you, right? So that was more my point. You don't have to feel guilty about not having a plan for landing the plane, because you're not the only one on the plane, and the airport they've got your back. Like, just do it.
Good, Father Eric. It looked like you had something you wanted to say. You had a thought.
Oh,
and
yeah. Well, it's yeah. I don't fully know what to make of that, right? I think we've had these sorts of conversations before, and I was like, well, like we relate to Mary as a mother, and that didn't seem to quite sit properly, right?
Right.
And there's plenty of spousal imagery in the Old and New Testaments, right? We've got the Song of Songs, we've got Hosea, we've got certain passages from Ezekiel, and then we've got a book of Revelation, and the letters of St. Paul, and some of the parables of Jesus there. And it's really interesting to me that you would like you see yourself as having a certain apostolate, right? Even if it's not like a like an organized thing, you've got like this. You're being sent, and you're supposed to heal people. And
it's already happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've got like the some charismatic gifts, and maybe this is just the bride of Christ kind of showing up, like the church itself kind of showing up, and this desire to. It's even more reason to become Catholic, right? Because we've got
if anything else works, that was your best sell. I just want to let you know that one landed. So, but no, thanks. And this does help. You know what I mean? This is how I've been doing it for 5 years. Like I behind closed doors, like in a safe containment area where no one gets blown up, and but it's really bringing it out in the open as well. And you've given me the space now where it's funny, and you've given me the space so I can go talk and really listen to God. And I take it seriously. Like all my friends, they're Catholic, and there's and so I'll tell you what. All right, I'm gonna do something here, and it's not too crazy. I got hurt at the Catholic Church pretty bad a couple of years ago. They ran me out on a rail, and it was after this Mary encounter thing. I got pretty open, and it wasn't the priest. It was with the custodian on the grounds. He's like, "Why are you here praying so much?" And I'm like, "You're a custodian. You're not a priest. Leave me alone." And it wasn't handled administratively too well. Like basically I said, "Okay, you have a problem with me? Let's go talk to the board." They never called me back. And one of the priests said, "Don't tell any other priests and just wait till I call you back." And he never did. And it tore me up. And I need to ask you to forgive, on behalf of all priests, I need to ask you to forgive me because I have had unforgiveness and bitterness in my heart.
Not allowed to do that over the internet.
No. And I'm just saying I need to say this to a priest that I like.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you, you know what I mean? I'm not, okay, I respect what you're saying, but if I get my junk out in public, that's what counts. Because I know who you are. I'm like, dude, I know you're going to roll with it. but it's like I need to do this for me, because it's, if I can say it to you, that means I really do mean it to about these other guys. I'm like, Lord, forgive them. They're just guys. They're just guys. You know what I mean? They just, I'll expect perfection from someone else in the Protestant world, and I'll be disappointed there as well. But all kidding aside, is like, I mean it. Forgive, accept my apology. How's that?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I get you. The other word, you can't do that. But all right, we'll see where it goes from here now. I think I like it. It's bitterness sucks. Unforgiveness is a drag, and it's been an impediment in my heart, and it's a dangerous one, and I don't like it. So what parish do you have? Are you in? Because if I do get Catholic, I'm hanging out and I'm gonna bug you. I'm gonna bend your ear like till the cows come home.
I'm the secretary to the bishop, director of liturgy, master of ceremonies, vice chancellor, defender of the bond by special indult to the Catholic Apostolic See, and canon law student. So
cool.
I'm not really doing anything right now.
That's cool. No, I just I think, anyhow, there's a place called Encounter Ministries in Michigan with Father Matthias Thielen, who
I know him.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, he was assigned at the seminary for a few years. So
okay, see him, and he knows Brian O'Donnell and Patrick Rice, and I've been around these guys, and I get along with them quite well. So that's the.
Yeah, well, go bug Father Thielen then. Don't bug me.
I think, yeah. I know. Well, you guys are easier targets, and also it's more fun here because there's all kinds of gibberish being spoken. So it's
Ron, I gotta just tell you. I mean, I don't know if you saw the beginning of the stream. I'm like this total war advocate. Anyway, Father Eric's being too nice about this land the plane thing. Okay, so I'm just gonna tell you, land the plane, or I'm firing my missile at you. So you got a limited time window here, pal. Let's get this done.
Well, you do that, and I'm gonna go tell God's
the missile is incoming.
There we go. That's right. That's right. I've got I've stole munitions from the church. I've got missiles. I'm gonna use them.
Yeah. All right. We will now consider things. Actually, we've been considering things for quite a while, but it's getting easier to navigate these waters, and I appreciate you letting me. This was a good one. I appreciate it quite a bit. So,
Ron,
with that,
I love having you on. I just want to say that out loud.
Oh, okay.
I love you having you on.
I appreciate it because, like, dude, I come in like I feel like a Muppet, like coming in like it's just Gonzo. Like,
you are a Muppet. It's fine.
That's hilarious. All right. So no, this is fun. So
Ron, buy a mug. Buy a mug of my shop.
What? Oh, yeah. Know what? Now you're talking. You're merching. You have to have a Ko-Fi for Christ or something. I don't know if you can do that. I think talk to Grim.
You mentioned Muppet. I'm trying to help remind you. We have whole Muppet reminder mugs, right? You can just remind yourself constantly that you're a Muppet every time you drink. Fantastic.
That's not bad. All right, I'm gonna go to sleep. I will be listening and heckling from the balcony. Fellas, that's fun. Good night.
Night.
So I actually did have, unless Mark has some more questions, I actually did have a question for you, Father Eric, related to Catholic theology.
Let's talk theology, Kirk.
So I was recently reading a book named A Universe from Nothing by Lawrence Krauss. In that book, he claims to refute Aristotle's prime mover argument by saying that there's a non-spatiotemporal quantum vacuum where matter and antimatter destroys each other, and that's what gives rise to space-time after the Big Bang. And so to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, the Thomist response to this would be something like a Leibnizian argument from contingency, which is that it's not that God is the first cause in a temporal sense, but in the hierarchy of causation, God is a necessary being which causes the contingent being of the universe to exist, including the quantum vacuum.
Yeah, I would say that Dr. Krauss, Mr. Krauss is only for I mean is only considering material causality there. He doesn't have any capacity to deal with being as such, what I'm going to call metaphysics or ontology, because Mark hasn't given me a better word yet, so we're just going to have to use one of those. And he doesn't have the capacity to engage with that. And so by the time you're using Thomistic and Aristotelian language, later adopted by Leibniz, to describe these things, that's when you're getting to third level abstractions there. And I don't think Krauss is smart enough to deal with third level abstractions.
He's a dumbass.
Yeah, I agree, because the problem is he's saying that this quantum vacuum is a universe of nothing, but it's not nothing, because it's a quantum vacuum. It still has potentiality or potentia in the Aristotelian sense.
It's more.
In fact, in his book Physics
fundamental.
and Philosophy, Werner Heisenberg says that the concept of superposition in quantum physics is a parallel to Aristotle's concept of potentia, where it has the capacity to be formed a certain way after observation.
It is, but Kurt, you got to understand something about Krauss. He did a talk with.
I can't hear Mark on that.
Oh,
that's interesting.
Hmm?
Yeah. So, Father, did you see the talk that Lawrence Krauss did with Peterson a couple of years back?
I think I saw some PVK commentary on it, and that's when I lost the last shreds of hair on the top of my head.
Yes. Well, Krauss is interesting, right? Because what he says in that conversation is he says there are no why questions, only how questions. And so, yeah, it's not that he can't deal with third order abstractions or second order abstractions. He can't deal with any kind of abstraction. All he can do is deal with things that aren't abstractions, but are abstract. But what they are is effectively in computer science, it would be a variable, right? Whereas a true abstraction in computer science is not a variable. A variable is not actually an abstraction, in the true sense. A pointer would be an abstraction. Krauss can't do that math at all, because he doesn't believe there are why questions. And so the reason why you eliminate why questions from your world model is because you can't start at the beginning, right? You can't start at creation. And so because then the why question comes up immediately and has to be resolved before you can proceed to do any sort of engagement with anything else. And so that's actually the problem. This is the creation denial problem that I always harp on about. And again, to be fair, even though I don't like his solution at all, Ken Ham has this right. You have to start the system. You have to start everything at the beginning. You can't start in the middle. And that, guys like Krauss in particular, you can't start Krauss, in the middle, because if you start in the middle, you've presupposed a bunch of things that your system relies on. And if you're presupposing a bunch of things that your system relies on, you can't use that system to talk about things the system relies on. It's not possible. It's just a contradiction. And that's why he gets thrown into these third order abstractions, because that's the only way you can do the hand wavy trick to avoid the why questions. Because he says there are no why questions. Well, there are, though. That's the reason we have the word why is to represent something that is real that we need to resolve, and it's not all how questions, which again points back to what you pointed out, which is he's dealing with one of the four causes and only one ever. He cannot deal with, he doesn't believe they exist. He stated that publicly very clearly, and even under pressure from Peterson sort of stood by that. he's like, I'm gonna die on this hill, and I'm like, well, you're kind of already dead underneath the hill, but whatever. Like, it's dumb. There are no why questions. So the word is superfluous in the language.
It is in every language, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like,
It's like one of the fundamental, like I've yet to encounter a language that doesn't have the capacity to ask why.
right.
Yeah. So I think if I understand his position correctly, I believe Krauss would argue that the physical universe is a brute fact that doesn't need explanation.
Well, that's just dumb.
That's middle out thinking. That's ignoring creation. And yeah, if you start in the middle, you have to do a move like that. Also, that move is stupid. So I mean, it's just a sign of somebody who's intellectually not very bright. I'm sorry, but also I've heard the guy talk. He's not very bright. He has a big vocabulary. Not very smart. He's just not a smart guy. Sorry.
And it is useful to note that sin has a darkening effect on the intellect over time, and we don't even have to say that Krauss would be a bad neighbor necessarily to have been caught in sin. Just the sins of the subtle sins of pride would be enough to have a complete darkening effect there. And pride being a sin ultimately against temperance. A lot of people don't make that connection, but humility is annexed as a part of temperance there. You could think of humility as not being excessively pleased in your own excellence, but rather having an appropriate level of pleasure in the way that God's created you. But that should leave you plenty hungry for more of things out there outside of you. So when somebody can just confidently state that the existence of the universe is a brute fact and pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, that right there is the product of a darkened intellect right there.
Well, I guess my question would be, what evidence do you have that the universe is not a brute fact?
I mean, what sort of evidence would Dr. Krauss accept, right? Like, if he's not going to consider why questions, if he's just closed himself off in a perfect little symmetrical system inside of his head, there aren't actually arguments you can make with people in that kind of spiritual darkness that they're in, that they're going to listen to. And trust me, man, I've tried for hours.
But also,
this is a hard learned lesson for me.
It's not an argument. Like, every religious person would agree that the universe is a hard fact. They just wouldn't start there, which is the difference. Like, it's where are you starting, right? Or Jonathan Michaud used to say, where are you standing? It's the same. It boils down to the same question. Like, and you can say, quote, the universe is a hard fact, but it's bigger than you. And why do you think you know anything about it? But you can't then use the tools that are the result of the hard fact that you say is just there to explain the hard fact, much less how it got there, which is the more interesting and important question that people care about. Which doesn't mean you need a, quote, answer to it in the sense that you need an answer that allows you to understand it or explain it. But it might mean you need some way of interacting with it. But there's no reason to refute that the universe is a hard fact. Of course it is. It's just not a place that you can make an argument about the universe from, because that would be a ridiculous, recursive, insane way to try to talk. Hey, Jake. Good to see you.
Hello. If you guys don't mind, first, I have to say to my audience, this is Father Eric Seitz. And if you don't already subscribe to his channel, you should come over to his channel and you should subscribe, because Father Eric is the official Roman Catholic priest of the Jacob Federecci channel.
According to the authority of Jacob Federecci.
Yes.
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 I don't want them to think the bishop's sending me to do this.
The bishop has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Blame me for naming. You can't even blame the Pope. You can only blame me for and there's the link in my chat. If so, that's first things first. Second, I have to apologize, Father. I usually try to listen to all of your stream before I jump on, but I don't. I know you're not going to be streaming for very long.
Yeah, I've got about another half an hour here, so
Yeah, it would be hard for me to catch up,
okay.
even at 1.5 speed. Although I tried, I listened to your monologue, but there was an important thing I wanted to bring up, which I thought your stream would be a good place to do it. We've been discussing it on my Discord, which is the very unfortunate event where somebody, I'm assuming some Jewish Israeli soldier, did something incredibly naughty by both Catholic and Jewish standards, which has gained lots of attention. And I figured it might be good to bring that up and give you some time to address it and maybe discuss it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about the widely publicized image confirmed by the Israeli Defense Force of one of their soldiers taking a hammer to a crucifix in southern Lebanon, and I mean, obviously, I'd never like to see that, and it's kind of offensive. I also understand what war is like. And war is we send in a bunch of 20-year-olds to do this, and those 20-year-olds are oftentimes very foolish. I remember myself being rather foolish at the age of 20, which is why the minimum age for priestly ordination is 25 years old. And so when I saw that the Israeli Defense Force brass had said this is unacceptable and he's going to be punished for it, I was like, okay, the generals who are dealing with these things, they're the ones who are supposed to have the calm and the clear heads. They seem to be doing that interesting. And then I saw some of the discussion. I did see some of the discussion on your server about, and it's a very interesting thing to me that Jews apparently are not permitted to destroy idols on behalf of Gentiles, and that's
correct.
That's an interesting thing right there. So even according to even the most hardline, whatever you want that to mean, hardline proponent of Judaism, that this kid wasn't doing what he was supposed to.
Correct, and that's what I wanted to make clear is first of all, even Benjamin Netanyahu, who's not exactly, I mean, he's not a religious figure, and his theology has much to be, but he also tweeted out a condemnation, right? But there is a feeling, at least in some corners, that this is, well, they're being forced politically for PR reasons. And
so what?
Well, yeah, but I mean, there is something to be said about a sincere apology as opposed to a forced apology.
Yeah, no, and certainly in the eyes of God, I think that would be very important. But I don't know how much energy I have to pour through press statements from the IDF and Netanyahu to discern whether or not this is a sincere apology. As far as I'm concerned, they made the right noises. I'm not even going to follow up to see if this kid gets court-martialed or not.
Well, he I'm sure he will be, but as Yosef pointed out, it's kind of strange and not particularly Jewish or Christian that people are more worried about the statue than the people who were living, whose garden it was, who are now refugees because of the war, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this was Christians. Apparently, this was a Maronite monastery, right? who were forced to flee, and it's very understandable that you would flee, especially when someone so brazenly is willing to do something like take the hammer or whatever it was he was using to your religious icons. That's I mean, I actually think there's a bunch of things to be said, and I'm probably going to do some streaming myself on this, but I wanted to clarify, like, as the Jewish part of this little corner, or the Jordan Peterson sphere, or whatever you want to call it, that nobody that would be considered among the rabbis that we generally agree with and follow, like Orthodox Judaism, as certainly I understand it, does not in any way, and like Yosef was saying in the because people were rightfully asking, they're like, well, why are Jews opposed to doing that? This goes back all the way to the times of Jesus. The Pharisees, the rabbinic Jews at the time of Jesus, this was a live question. Do we go destroy the idols of the Romans or not? And the Pharisaic position was quite clear, which is why it is our position. It is the Talmudic position, you might say, that we don't go around destroying other people's idols for lots of reasons. And this is long-standing Jewish belief. We certainly wouldn't have our own, statue of Jesus anywhere, but that is in no way license for a Jew to go around. And yeah, I ultimately have to say, I don't feel like I have to apologize for the IDF, because frankly, I don't feel like I have to apologize for the state of Israel. But I have to say, as a Jew, the idea that this man was doing this as a Jewish thing, that itself is, I would say, an offense against how we understand Judaism.
Okay, I think that's a fair point to make. And if you feel the need to say that, I kind of appreciate that. And recognize the wisdom of that position there. So glad to hear it. Glad to hear that your teachers have a. I mean, the way that I think I saw Yosef explaining it was that the only time you can destroy an idol is if you've got some sort of connection to it.
Well, it has to. I mean, if it's your own thing, that's one thing, right? But even that, like, so it gets pretty. First of all, the question becomes: is even a crucifix, which is probably the closest thing? I mean, we have to say, within Christianity, there's a whole question of whether making statues of Jesus is an allowable thing or not. Obviously, the Catholic position is yes. I believe the Eastern Orthodox don't make three-dimensional, and the Protestants, I mean, the
Protestants are all over the place.
Yeah, well, as usual. But the sad thing is, from the defenses of that act I was seeing, it was certainly from the Protestant Zionists, who are like, "Yup, go ahead and do it," They were like, yeah, go, which not,
That's not how you build a coalition, right there.
it is what it is. But when it comes down to it from a Jewish standpoint, so this is actually practically the case. If I were to want to buy, for example, a statue, so for example, when you buy a fountain, it has a realistic chipmunk on it, right? This is something that happens on a regular basis, right? As a religious Jew, if you are going to buy a decorative statue of a chipmunk, because we are very strict on any actual representations of anything that says lo tasun iti, you shall not make with me any form of animal or any image, right? That's in the thing. So you have to ask the person who is selling it to you, who's not Jewish, to break a piece off of the statue before you buy it. Like, this is practically what a Jew who's buying a fountain, Orthodox Jew who's buying a fountain.
And then he goes home and finishes the job?
No. You just as long as it's not a full thing, it's obviously not an idol. It's fine, but we as Jews have no, and the Kabbalists make a big deal of this, that there's no spiritual power within Israel to destroy the
which is really interesting, I think,
Yeah.
because if I was walking about on the church property, let's say, and I saw a Santeria shrine, just like a little one that was set up, it'd be like, well, no problem. We're just going to destroy that. And we're gonna decommission this in the name of Jesus, and that's just going to take care of it, right? So there is a little more, like, a little more, aggression in Christianity, even against the false idols of the other nations. That I guess isn't even in Judaism, which is more famously aniconic.
Well, I don't know if you remember, Father, when I was working for Catholic Charities in Los Angeles, there was this thing where I was tweeting, sending Discord messages furiously at you, because so I was working at a domestic violence shelter, and one of the mothers was very close to this shelter. I won't give more details because I can't, but very close to this shelter, there was a Santeria bookstore. Mm-hmm. And one of the mothers was going over there and spending money that was supposed to go to feeding her kids on Santeria, whatchamacallits, amulets and magic. Which, I went as far up as I could in Catholic Charities here in Los Angeles, going, can you please exorcise this? And unfortunately, their answer was no, which is why I was furiously talking to Father Eric about it. But unfortunately, while I would love to see, for example, a Catholic prayer-a-thon in front of that Santeria bookstore, protesting its very existence, at the same time, as Jews, we could never, because we don't believe that that's our place as Israel to. It's a very different orientation.
Yeah. I know I've even met priests who have, encountered these little shrines on a bike ride, and they'll stop, decommission, and destroy, and then move on.
More power to you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's it's just fascinating, interesting stuff right there. At the power that comes in the name of Jesus. Thanks be to God.
Christendom is a responsibility. We've got to uphold it, right?
Good and decent public order. Okay. Fascinating stuff. I'm afraid, Jacob, that your experience with the Archdiocese of LA unfortunately does not surprise me. And sometimes things have to collapse a long way before they can be rebuilt on a solid foundation. And the bigger it is, the longer that's going to take. So, there was we've talked about some of the poor leadership they've had out there in 20th and early 21st century. It's not Archbishop Gomez that I'm talking about, but he's one man, and even as the Archbishop in a hierarchical church, you can only accomplish so much. So.
And frankly, I'm not sure the archdiocese, I mean, the way things
and the
were
way,
set up, had any way of
organizations.
Very unfortunately, I mean, for especially the mothers who were there, a lot of them, I think, came specifically to us because they themselves were Catholic and needed ministering to by Catholics. And I actually went to, like, I tried to get priests to come visit because, like, we needed that. And unfortunately, there are not enough priests to go around in Los Angeles. Certainly not faithful ones.
Yep. We're all getting a little squeezed there, but and I'm sure you can appreciate this. You always want to choose for quality over quantity in your clergy. That is because a bad priest can do a lot of damage on his way out. So it's useful to discern these things well. Yeah.
Who's the new guy? What's going on?
Yeah. Both of you have black cats.
Shalom, salam, peace be with you guys. I have 2 observations and a question for the Father. As I was listening to your conversation, I wanted to remind the gentleman, one of the very first things of idol worshiping that was practiced was by Israel. By the way, I'm from the tribe of Levi, and it was called the tefillin, a square box that we put on our heads with prayers to remind you. So it's not that they're worshiping these things, but as a reminder of something. I was also raised as a Roman Catholic, very strict. We spoke Latin. My mother covered her head. Women covered their heads. As of statues there, I never worshiped these things. What they did is they brought me closer to the essence of spirituality. So it's not that I can pray to something or see something. What it is it's a recognition that something is there, and if I'm speaking to it in the sense that I have a feeling that I know that they could be hearing me. So I believe that's what all statues represent throughout history. When people create any form of statue, even statues of presidents or anything, it's a reminder that these people once were there and they did something in the world. They put a work out in the world. So no one is worshiping any of these things, but I hear people talk about it all the time. And the question I have, so if anybody has a rebuttal on what I said, you feel free, but I have a question for the priest, a very serious question. I no longer practice any religion anymore, by the way. I got out of all religions altogether, and I write thesis papers, and I study all the holy books, the Quran, the Vedas, the Bible, the Torah. That's one of the reasons I left and got away from religion. So a question I have in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, there's the Roch and the Mayim. And the Roch, it's masculine. And the Mayim, which starts with the letter Mim and ends in the letter Mim, is feminine. And then they produce a seed called light. This is the true Trinity. Only the Father is holy. Only the Father is good. So the question I have is, when I was in religion, the Trinity that they taught was Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But in my research, the word Holy Spirit actually doesn't exist. It's the Roch Disharara, which is the Aramaic, which is Spirit of Truth. And in the Greek, for the Paraclete and the Comforter, they have another word. So I saw that they added these things. And then I went to a museum and looked at the book of Matthew. And I noticed that there is no verse containing go and baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That verse is also added after 320 AD from Nicaea. So the question I have is, when you look at these verses in Genesis, we are also made in his image and likeness. Male and female, he created them. So my view of the Trinity, in Islam, they deny the Trinity with the Christians in their book. They say, don't believe the way the Christians believe about the Trinity, but they don't give a very good detail of reasoning why. So I wanted to study and find why would these one flock say something about another flock. Mind you, I'm not in any part anymore. I just observe what the flocks are doing and what they're reading. So in that, I see a Trinity that was given by Moses, and he wrote God's name 3 different ways: Elohim, Adonai Elohim, and Yahweh. And these have meanings. It's not really his name. These are meanings about something, which Elohim refers to the 7 spirits, or what we call the seraphim. And these are actually spirits. You got Gabor El in Hebrew means the power of God. Later on,
an awfully long time to get to your question, friend.
Well, they change. Well, sir, I waited very patiently, did I not? And now you want me to hurry up?
Yes,
because I don't agree with your doctrine. So I want to ask you, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? When I read the books properly, Gabor El has now become Gabriel. In Islam, it's become Jibril. It only means the power of God, the might of God. It's not an entity with wings. Artwork depicted this, so you create this in your imagination. That's what statues and images do. Cherubim were the first thing created by Moses upon the ark, depicted with wings. And that's the reason for that is because cherubim are emotions that rise up.
That's not a question.
Yeah, that's weird, saying that the power of God is not this thing.
Also, I have to say, he said a lot of stuff about Hebrew, and basically none of it was correct. So,
yeah, his Greek and Aramaic was a little suspect too, because these are not new arguments. A lot of people think they're new. This is the first time I've made this argument. It's like, yeah, but you're not the first person to try to make the argument. And sort of settled, but whatever. Yeah. It's crazy to make a claim to say that the power of God can't possibly be an angel. It's kind of like, well, I would think that actually the angels were a manifestation of the power of God. Like, I don't, and there's no conflict here.
I'm not sure it's worthwhile to actually correct all of the ways in which he was.
No. It
wrong.
I just wanted to point out the obviousness of the fact that he was claiming there was a conflict with something.
Partially because when you point out like some of the things he said which were clearly wrong, he will correct those, but there's no way he will update his beliefs and actually be like, I was wrong about X, so maybe I'm wrong about the entire thing.
Right, but it wasn't about that, Jacob. For me, it's about actual proper logic, right? It is incorrect to say that because it says power of God, that it can't be this other thing, which would also be a subtype of power of God. That's just logically, rationally, and reasonably incorrect in all 3 domains, which is kind of impressive if you think about it.
And the premise was wrong.
Well, yeah.
Gibor is not. Gibor is is actually
again, I didn't
champion.
your
Like,
earlier
whatever.
point. I didn't want to deal with the premise, but I
Yeah.
did want to deal with the form because
Okay.
like the form tells you something important and it can be applied elsewhere. Whereas
Yeah.
the premise is the premise, and it really only
Yeah.
it only hits one argument. But yeah,
Well, it's like this. You're entitled to your own perspective in a free country, but if you're going to claim to ask a question, ask a question.
yeah, exactly.
The
He
world
was
all
he was
over
launching an attack, a complicated attack that was so complicated that hopefully no one could track it well enough to dismantle it. This is a common tactic on the internet. It was in use in the 1980s. I was there. I used to do it. It's a lot of fun if you're doing it as a game. If
We're
you're
back
trying
in
to
Uncle
do it in
Mark's Tech
public-
Garage.
Exactly. Back to the tech garage where we got so rudely cut off. Back to the tech garage. But yeah, that form of argumentation is one that I'm ridiculously familiar with. I totally understand that. I'm the type of person that can track all of your stupid ridiculousnesses and dismantle them in order, forward or backwards, at my discretion. I obviously wasn't going to do that there anyway, but I'm just saying this is a tactic. It's a well-known tactic. It's a very old tactic. It's older than he is, for sure. And it's worth noting that it's a tactic. That's all. And the only thing worth noting, like I said, is the logical fallacy that was involved in the attack. The rest of it, the propositional incorrectness is whatever. It is what it is. And yeah, you can't deal with those because that's an infinite argument over interpretation or a translation, and usually both. And that's fruitless because you never get to the evidentiary point of what is your standard of evidence, which is also a trick, right? If you don't put forth a standard of evidence, your argument cannot be knocked down ever. Which is, it's good to know if people aren't putting forth the standard of evidence, that's because they're not interested in having a conversation or a discussion or an exploration. They just want to make you wrong about something. And that those are patterns you can spot: logical inconsistencies, logical fallacies, and these little tricks that people play, overloading people with lots of incorrect facts or even lots of correct facts to kind of draw out logically a conclusion. These are just tricks. They're just rhetorical tricks. They're very clever. We used to have a game of that on the internet. I talked about it years ago on Paul Vanderklay's stream. And that's wonderful and all. Also boring.
See, if I had actually gotten to like a question, I would have asked him another question because that's what Jesus taught me to do.
I question, and I raise you a question.
It was going to be a lot simpler. It was going to be, are you a part of anything? I think that would be, like, how would you answer that question? And if he said, I'm not a part of anything, I'd be like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Could be a part of the mystical body of Satan without knowing about it.
Exactly. You don't know what you're up to quote Jordan Peterson. I wanted to address pick and choose little thing, although I appreciate Father. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care if you're doing things intentionally because I'm a pragmatist and intention is not something I have access to. I know a lot of people will tell you they know what other people intend, and I just ignore those people as stupid because, of course, you can't know what people intend because they don't know what they intend. So, yeah, a pattern is a pattern, and he was following a pattern. Where he got that pattern from, whether or not he invented it, and this is really annoying to me. I know the people that started that pattern on the internet, like actually physically me. Okay. So they're copying it and they're not as good as those people. And that kind of pisses me off, actually. Like you shouldn't like engage with things that are beyond your abilities. And he was way out over his skis on that. I couldn't, like, I don't know Aramaic. I couldn't, get him on the Hebrew like Jacob can or whatever. But in similar forms, I would have filleted him 6 ways to Sunday because it's sloppy. And I don't like sloppy. If you're going to play the game, play it well, right? You come to play, you play big, you're all in. Otherwise, get out of my way because I'll just knock you over and keep going. Like, this is annoying. It's annoying when the amateurs come to play. It bothers me. It actually just bothers me personally. So that's more my my thing. And I don't take these, I don't care. I see what I see and I react to what I see because I can't react to the fantasy idea that maybe somebody's actually just not doing exactly what they're doing. Like, you got to deal with what you got on the ground. That's why I'm a war first guy, and to hell with Iran, and the Pope is wrong. That's just me.
Yeah. Oh goodness,
Yeah, I think it is an internet thing because I was there and I remember the time before.
certainly
It's
the internet.
definitely an internet
facilitates
argumentation.
it, right? Because you've got that kind of flattened, because otherwise you just have to go and start shouting in a park.
When you can't, but also you can't do that sort of thing without the internet. And that sort of thing can't be spread to stupider people without the internet. And that way of arguing doesn't work in person at all, right? And so you never saw it in person at all until Reddit, right? And Reddit's popularity increased with the stupid people, like actually. And when Reddit became more popular, that form of argumentation began to appear everywhere. And so it did come from the internet. I was there. It definitely does. I know a lot of people who were like much younger than me, and fair enough. That's a lot of people now because I keep getting older for some weird reason, despite trying not to. They just don't realize that. And fair enough. You weren't there. You wouldn't realize where it came from if you didn't know the history. I just happen to have been there. And so I actually know the history. You can just read texts and see that certain styles were not present even 20 years ago and 25 years ago. And you can trace where some of these things come from. And a lot of them actually just come from 4chan, Reddit, and IRC, because that's what's driving the internet. Whether you realize it or not, it ain't no Facebook and X not nonsense. And most of that stuff comes from those three places because they're older, although 4chan less so now. And Reddit wasn't even a factor back in the day. Reddit was relatively new. So if you know, you know, and if you don't, fair enough. But also, you don't want to tell me I don't know about that when I actually do, because again, this is annoying. I was there. I saw it all happen.
Just trying to, like, if somebody tried to engage you in that particular manner on the street, it would have a very low hit rate, right?
Well,
People would be like, it's hot. I've got to use the bathroom. I don't have time for this. We're going to move right on, right?
Exactly.
It
would never catch
the setting. So there might be like similar tricks that you could use in the, like, people belong to the Church of Scientology, right? Where they'll spin a compelling narrative for you and tell you about things that you don't know, and maybe catch some people who are already spiritually kind of teetering and tottering right there into what they have going on. But your engagement, your manner of engagement, if you were going to do that, would be very different. You would actually have to read the room. You'd have to read the feedback there. That's and right. Like, see if you could build common ground, because I mean, you're probably just going to intuitively notice it when you're in that scenario there. Just the amount of information that's coming in for you is not going to it's not going to come up over the internet, right? So you're a little more limited on your tools there when you're doing the internet kind of style of thing. So just kind of flooding the channel with noise is like your most effective tool there. Well, and it's just cognitive overload,
Yeah, it's the cognitive overload, but he wasn't merely doing a cognitive overload trick. He was doing what we call a trap question. So you set up the framing for the question, and then you ask the question in such a way that there's only one possible right answer. And to Jacob's point, you have to do that in some cases when you're not talking about true things by making a bunch of errors up front, usually, as I said, in translation and or interpretation, often both. There's no other way to do it. But you can't do that in person. And people generally don't. There's some exceptions to that. But when it happens, you would have to go to a church and confront a priest face to face to get away with it, which means no one sees that. But that's not rambling. Rambling is a very different thing. And people who are rambling questions don't set up frameworks for the questions up front. That never happens. When people are rambling, they're saying random things. He wasn't saying anything random. He had planned out every single sentence he was speaking. It had been practiced. And that practice comes specifically from the internet. It's very rare. And although it used to happen before, it only happened among intellectuals and pseudo-intellectuals, and nobody else would ever see it. And therefore, the only people doing it wouldn't make the mistakes that Jacob mentioned, because usually they have some intellectual sort of sense of intellectual honesty, if you will. And so they would never do that. That's the difference. And so it wasn't some random poor innocent soul and, saying you stepped out of religion on a channel where, we regularly say, if you believe you do not have a religion, one will be provided to you without your knowledge or consent. The whole thing was sus from the beginning.
Well, it certainly led to an exciting conclusion of this stream. And what I'm most thankful for is I don't have to deal with YouTube's horrible editing platform to blur anything out. So let's all make sure to keep our both of our Christophers in prayer. Christopher the Good and Christopher the Confused, because all of us are worn down by life and find ourselves in trouble, and we have much need for rest for our souls and rest for our bodies, because it's gotten dark outside. And I'm going to be going to bed soon. So thank you for your participation, Jacob. Always a delight to have you raid my channel. And Mark and Chris and Kirk, thank you for your contributions. Wish Ron was here to see all of this. And good night, and God bless you all.
Good night, folks.